Okay, so now we will start with the pathways. So we start with the dorsal column pathway initially. Okay, so this is the dorsal column pathway. So we start with, what are the sensations that they carry? Fine touch, vibration, proprioception, tactile localization, tactile discrimination, stereognosis. Okay, so these sensations come up and they get synapsed at the dorsal root ganglion. Okay, and the dorsal root ganglion is what? Yes, this is the first order neuron. Then what they happen? They go and they reach the posterior part, the posterior fasciculus. Now you will see, you have two parts here, divided. The medial part is called the fasciculus gracilis. Okay, the fasciculus gracilis, and the lateral part is called the fasciculus cuneatus. Okay, so now they ascend the pathway. This is called the dorsal column pathway. So it's getting ascended. There is no crossing or happening. Now we reach the medulla. What is happening in the medulla? Look, they are getting the second nucleus. That is the nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus. And my dear friends, this is the second order neuron. Now what happens? Yes, they are crossing over. So crossing over is happening now. And this place, what is this? This is called the internal arcuate fibers. Okay, so this is the internal arcuate fibers or the decussation. They are crossing out to the other side and then they ascend up as the medial lemniscus. Then at the thalamus, what happens at the thalamus? Yes, they relay, and this is the thalamus has the third order neuron, and from there through the corona radiata they reach the sensory cortex. Okay, so what is the first order neuron? Dorsal root ganglion. What is the second order? Look without looking at the picture. Second order ganglion, yes, nucleus gracilis and nucleus cuneatus. I gave you a clue how to remember. Cuneatus, eat means you eat with upper limb, like that you can remember. What is the third order neuron? Yes, it's in the thalamus. Now one important point, which nucleus in the thalamus deals with it? Yes, it's the posteroventrolateral or medial. Which nucleus deals with the thalamus? Yes, exactly. So this is the posteroventro medial nuclei. Okay. Oh, sorry, my mistake here. It's a posteroventro-lateral nuclei, PVLN of the thalamus. That you understand. This is the thalamus, so this place VPL, ventroposterolateral nuclei, third order. Where is the crossing happening? The crossing happening at the medulla, and that is the internal arcuate fibers. Where does it emanate? No doubt, sensory cortex. 3, 1, 2. I'll explain that later. So just keep your curiosity for some time. What does it carry? It carries, remember, dorsal column carries more of like new and more like advanced sensations. What are the advanced sensations? Fine touch, vibration, proprioception, tactile localization, etc. So these are little advanced sensation that you'll understand why I'm telling is advanced. So this is clear. Okay. Now we go into spinothalamic tract. Spinothalamic tract, remember I told you there are two of them. What are the two types? You have the anterior spinothalamic and you have the lateral spinothalamic. The anterior carries crude touch, while the lateral spinothalamic carries pain and temperature. One more thing which you have to remember is this picture over here. Look at these things what I am marking. Yeah. Remember, in dorsal column pathway we saw that the second order neurons happened only in the medulla, but for the spinothalamic tracts the second order neuron are right at spinal cord itself at the same level, and for the anterior spinothalamic tract they second order neuron is the chief sensory cells, and for the lateral spinothalamic tract, yes, you have the substantia gelatinosa. Okay, now we will go back to the diagram. So what happens? Yeah, they come to the dorsal root ganglion. This is the first order. Yeah, and the second order happens here. I told you what are the this thing. Yeah, and then they decussate here itself. Look here, the decussation is happening here itself at the spinal cord. At the location itself, they are crossing out to the other side. So what happens? Yeah, they have the the ventral or the anterior spinothalamic tract and the lateral spinothalamic. So the second order neurons are already there. They ascend up, medulla nothing happens, pons nothing happens, midbrain nothing happens, and the thalamus same place. Which place? Yes, postero-ventro-lateral nucleus of thalamus. Here is the third order neuron, and from there they radiate to the sensory cortex. Same thing again. Okay. This is for the same thing. So lateral spinothalamic. You look at this picture. Yeah, pain, temperature, crude touch, anterior lateral spinothalamic tract. Yeah, you can see beautiful picture. You will understand everything. Please fill the same as you fill. So you pause the video and you fill these things and see if you are right. Okay. So I am not explaining again since I don't want to repeat the same things which we have explained really clearly in the previous explanation. Okay, so now we are going to differentiate. When you differentiate and study, it's going to stay longer in your brain. Okay, now fibers. These things I have not told you actually, so this will be a learning possibility for you. So I told you dorsal column contains giving the new types of sensation, like more advanced type of sensations, right? While spinothalamic is more like basic type, crude touch, pain, temperature, more basic sensations. Okay, keep that in mind. Remember, the dorsal column has myelinated nerve fibers, but spinothalamic has unmyelinated fibers or thinly medullated. Okay. So what happens if they are myelinated? More myelination means increase conduction speed. And here it will be decreased speed. So that we have covered. Okay, what is the speed? Now second order neuron eda? Yes, dorsal column pathway is at the nucleus, gracilis and cuneatus. Here it is. Yes. Yeah, you know what is this? Chief sensory nucleus and substantia gelatinosa of Rolando. Carry sensation from it carries the same side. Why? Yeah, they do not decussate, they do not cross the other side until to the thalamus. Not thalamus, in the medulla. So till that they are going on the same side. So remember, dorsal column pathway does not cross over. So same sides in the fibers are kondu. But spinothalamic tract cross in the beginning itself. So it's taking fibers from the opposite side. So here it will be the opposite side. Lamination, I told you in dorsal column pathway, the medially you will have sacral. Yeah, you will have the lower segments medially and laterally you have the upper. But here is the other way. Medially you have the upper and laterally you have the lower fibers. I have explained to you before why it happens in the introduction part. So in the medulla what happens? Yeah, in the medulla it crossovers. Okay, crossing over happens, crossing over and forms the medial lemniscus. Here no crossing over, it continues at the spinal lemniscus. And what all sensations? Yeah, you know, fine touch, proprioception, tactile discrimination, etc. And here it is crude touch, then pain and temperature. Okay. Now we go to spinal cerebellar tract. This is a non-sensory pathway. This will go through a bit fast just to understand. That's it. So here the same thing, but it's going to, the second order is going to come at Clark's column of cells instead of, so dorsal routine on a Clark's column light ആയിരിക്കും അത് ചെയ്യാൻ പോകുന്നത്, this thing. And what happens, these spinocerebellar, look at the name, it's not going to thalamus, it's not going to cortex, it's going to cerebellar. That means from spinal cord the end is cerebellar, it's not going above. So what is happening in the cerebellar, it's going to go to the superior and the inferior cerebellar peduncles to the cerebellum. So it's going to carry some fibers from the part of the body into the cerebellum. So okay, it has got cut, so that I'll tell you. So there are two spinocerebellar tracts. You have the anterior spinocerebellar tract and the posterior spinocerebellar tracts. Okay, so the anterior, the posterior. Okay, the posterior, we'll start with the posterior. Posterior is also called the direct spinocerebellar tract, and that synapse with the Clark's column, and the anterior synapse with the chief sensory nucleus, same as for anterior spinothalamic tract. Next, what happens? Posterior spinothalamic tract, there is no crossing. So what happens? It carries same side fibers. But anterior, what happens? It even majorly it's not crossing, but some fibers can cross. So it carries both same and opposite side fibers. Okay, and it posterior, you think posterior will go through the inferior cerebellar peduncle, but anterior will go to the superior cerebellar peduncle. Okay. What are the functions of spinocerebellar tract? Actually, it contains some unconscious proprioceptive information on muscles, joint and tendon. And what does it do? Sensory control of motor activity, muscle tone and coordinates movements. Okay. So just make a note of this. This is also an important question for exam, spinocerebellar tract. Now we go to sensory cortical area, very interesting part actually. So this is our brain. We all know our brain, how it looks. Okay. Now I have made a red marking here, this area. You know what is sulci? These things are all sulci. These depressions are sulci and the elevated portions are gyrus. Yes, this is the central sulcus. Okay, the most central sulcus is called the central sulcus, and the gyrus behind it is called the post central gyrus. Now there is a man called Brodmann. What he did, he divided the brain, he gave numbers to different parts of the brain based on many studies he did. So this post central gyrus is given a numbers 3, third functional area, Brodmann's area, so third area, first area and second area. These were given to the post central gyrus. Okay. So this is the post central gyrus, and this is a very important part you are going to study, the sensory cortex. What is the sensory cortex? I just given anatomy now, so I am going to discuss it further. Have you seen this picture? Yes, you might have seen in anatomy laboratories or in museums. This is called the sensory homunculus. Okay, so look, just carefully look at the picture here. The tongue has my very big than size, and even the thumbs. but look at your trunk. Okay, trunk and all is at very small size compared. Actually the tongue is very small and the trunk is much bigger, but in the picture you can see here it's the opposite actually. Why is it happening? Yes, that is the sensory areas you're going to talk about. Okay, so let me start. So your cortical sensory area, the sensory cortex, is divided into two parts. You have the SSA1 and you have the SSA2. What is this SSA1 and SSA2? What is SSA? Yeah, SSA means somatic sensory area. So this is somatic sensory area 1 and somatic sensory area 2. So somatic sensory area 1 is this Brodmann's areas. This Brodmann's 3, 1, 2 areas. Okay. What is happening here? Yeah. You see, look at this gyrus over here. Okay, just imagine yourself. Okay, this gyrus. Okay, this is that gyrus. This is your, yeah, what I am telling you. This is your, yes, post-central gyrus. And what is this? You can see genitals, toes, foot. You can see lips here, and you can see the pictures. Very big lips. So actually, what happens here is the entire body is represented onto that gyrus. How? Okay, fibers are given to these. So fibers of the hair, suppose from here I am telling the corona radiator, fibers of leg has come, so that will go over here. Fibers of lips have come, they will go over here. So what is happening? So this much area of the cortex is given for lips, but only this is given for legs. Similarly, you can see how it is divided. So what is happening? You can see an inverted. Our face should come over here, like if you're going standing, but it's an inverted thing. Your face is coming here, your legs are coming here. So it's an inverted representation. Okay. So on the postcentral gyrus, the whole human body sensory system is represented as an inverted body. So this is called your inverted represent. This is called the sensory homunculus. This representation is called the sensory homunculus. That's why you can see the lips are given more area, and that's why this lips are more area. Similarly, you can see the thumb is more and the hand is more. That's why you can see a big thumb, you can see a big hand. But you can see the trunk is very small, and that's why the trunk is also small over here. This is the sensory homunculus. Why is it important? Why does lip have more sensory? Because we use it more sensory. There's more sensory perception in the lips and thumbs and hands compared to the trunk. So what happens? You have something called 2-point discrimination. Adu paranja rendu sooji vechu kuttuka. Okay. Appo adu you start at maybe 2 cm, 3-5 centimeters apart. Then you bring it closer. Okay, in the thumbs and lips and all, even if it's very like 0.1, and also you will be able to distinguish the stimulus as two separate prickings. But in the trunk, you won't recognize at 0.1 and all, you will think it as exactly one stimulus, because the sensory supply is not much over there. The brain has given less sensory supply to those parts because it's not much needed in those areas. So what happens? Yeah, the 2-point discrimination all is impaired in those areas actually. So that is what you have to understand from this. Okay, it's a bit complex, but when you read it and understand, you will definitely get a hang of it with few subsequent readings. So understand what is the sensory homunculus. This is a representation of the body on the postcentral gyrus. Okay. So yeah, what are the functions of SSA1? Somatic sensory, there appreciation of almost all sensations. Localization, I told you, the sensory homunculus. So engota impulse, so we can localize. Then recognition of the spatial relationship of the body. That means recognizing the positions of the hand. So we know the hand is up, we know the hand is down. And discriminative and synthesize. So we know the 2-point discrimination. Okay, we'll be able to find the two in SSA1. What is SSA2? Okay. So what happens here? You have the brain. This 312. This is the SSA1. Deep to this you have SSA2. Deep to this. Okay. So this is deep. And here you have an upright representation, but here this is an inverted. Here was an upright representation, but it's not complete. not much of a use. അപ്പോൾ എല്ലാം കറക്റ്റ് അപ്രൈറ്റായിട്ട് ഇരിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിലും അതിന് പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് യൂസ് ഇല്ലാതിരിക്കുകയാണ്. മീൻസ് not much fibers go over there, and plus it's not very well represented, so it does not have that much of a sensory capacity. This is the second, you have a sub area പോലെയാണ്. So this is seen inferior and deep, upright position, but it's not complete, not detailed, it's very minimal sensation. And one important thing is damage to this area does not produce loss of sensation. So yeah, happy. But it has some roles. What are the roles? It has some role in sensory control of motor activity and role in pain perception. Sensory control of motor activity and pain perception. മോട്ടർ ആക്ടിവിറ്റി നമ്മൾ ചെയ്യുമ്പോഴും അതിന് ചിലതിനൊക്കെ സെൻസേഷൻ്റെ ആവശ്യങ്ങളുണ്ട്. ഓക്കെ, സോ അതിനൊന്ന് കൺട്രോൾ ചെയ്യാൻ ഒരു സബ് പോലെ ഒരു ചെറിയൊരു റോളാണ്, ഒരു ബാക്ക്ഗ്രൗണ്ട് റോളാണ്, ഓൺ സ്റ്റേജ് റോളല്ല. സോ വി സ്റ്റഡീഡ് ദാറ്റ്. Now next, one more area. Okay, this is 312. Yeah, over here there is an area. Yeah, this is 5 and 7. I'll this picture really appreciate. Yeah, see here 5. Yeah, you see 5 and 7. These are Brodmann's area 5 and 7, and this is called the sensory association area. This is situated posterior to the SSA1. So what is the use of that SSA sensory association area? The Bron 5 and 5. So what do they do? Very important role. Correlation and proper understanding of sensation from previous experience. You see, you touch a flower or you feel fire, you feel the heat. Your brain needs to know this is fire or this is a flower. So this is given by sensory association area, or there is no use of this. So where does it receive the information from? It is the SSA1, thalamus, auditory, visual. So എല്ലാം വന്ന് കൂടിയാണ് it gives the message to the brain, dear brain, you are holding a flower. Okay, so detailed analysis of sensory information, meaningful interpretation of various sensory experiences. Now there is a lesion. This is a clinical question. I'm going to tell you what is amorphosynthesis. Okay, imagine, so this is our person. So what happens? He has a lesion to the sensory association. This is right side and this is left side. He has a left side lesion of his sensory association area. So which side will be affected, right or left? Yeah, the right side will be affected. So what happens? Suppose he sees a cup. He sees a cup. ഇത് കപ്പിൻ്റെ റൈറ്റ് സൈഡ് ആണ്, ഇത് കപ്പിൻ്റെ ലെഫ്റ്റ് സൈഡ് ആണ്. He will only notice the left side. He will completely ignore the right side because it's not making any sense to him. The brain is not able to understand that there is a right side. The brain is not able to understand there is something appartha right side landadunde. There are cases like this actually happening. There are some beautiful books, Phantoms in the Brain, and many brain related books. If you read, you will get to know actual case of people who are not able to appreciate the right side of a cup or the right side of a plate. Even if they are eating food, they won't see the right side of the plate, they only see the left and keep the plate half empty, half full always. Okay, so this is called amorphosynthesis. So this is a really interesting but also sad situation. Okay, so next we go to two pathways with which we will complete our discussion today. The first is sense of touch. Tell me, my dear friends, what are the two touches? We already discussed. Yeah, touches of two types. Yeah, you have fine touch and crude touch. Fine touch means you are able to feel the pressure, you are able to feel tactile, you can feel the localization, you can localize it, you can discriminate it. Means discrimination, you can find, like I told us, 2-point discrimination. It will be very advanced touch, you know, you will be able to feel it better. But crude touch is just a rough, you know, it is not an evolutionally higher thing. Okay, it's much lower thing in evolution, but fine touch is much more evolutionally high thing. So as I told you, so fine touch is carried by whom? Yeah, this is the dorsal column pathway, and crude touch is by the anterior spinothalamic pathway. Okay, good, very good. So fine touch, so dorsal column, anterior. Okay, So in crude touch, tactile localization is possible, but in crude fine touch is possible. Crude touch actually no, not possible. You can't localize it. So what are some touch receptors? They ask you. I told you have to learn the receptors here. The touch receptors are free nerve endings. This is nerve, free nerve endings, Meissner's corpuscles, Merkel's disc, etc. So I am not going to explain the pathway again. You all know the pathway. So for fine touch, what is the pathway? Yes, dorsal column pathway. So same thing. Actually, how we have studied already, same thing. Repeat it. First order neuron, second order neuron, everything as it is. And always draw diagrams for your exams, please. You should understand the teacher is correcting many papers. So if he or she sees a diagram and the things written in points, marks can be given much easily. So please draw diagrams. This is your crude touch is carried by the anterior spinothalamic tract. Again, same thing which we have already discussed. So I am not going to repeat it again. This is something which I have not discussed. What is touch sensation from face? So what are the nerves supplying the face here? This is the trigeminal nerve. We all know that. Trigeminal nerve. So what happens here is, look over here. The sensations from face. So trigeminal nerve has three divisions, V1, V2, V3. Ophthalmic, maxillary and the mandibular divisions. So what happens? The sensation come, and this is the trigeminal ganglion, semilunar ganglion. Trigeminal ganglion, this is the first order neuron. Then they go to the second order neuron and the main sensory nucleus of the thalamus the main sensory nucleus of the trigeminal nerve at the spinal cord. Then finally they go to the thalamus at where? Ventropostero medial nuclei. This is medial. But for dorsal column and spinothalamic, they went to ventropostero lateral. So this is the difference. And they go to SS1 and SSA2, SSA1 and SSA2. Same thing, only thing you remember, trigeminal ganglion, chief sensory nucleus, main sensory nucleus of trigeminal nerve, then BP-median, ventral posteromedial nucleus of thalamus, and they cross over to the other side also, okay, the trigeminal. This picture is more than enough for face, okay. Why localization? This is a genuine point you need to understand. Why do you tell crude touch cannot be localized by fine touch can be localized? Okay, so this is a rough diagram, please understand. So this is a crude touch. Okay, so what happens? You have number of fibers coming and many number of fibers converge on one chief sensory nucleus. Okay, so this one chief sensory, there is another sensory nucleus here, this sensory nucleus here, they go like this, and they all converge on one sensory nucleus in the thalamus. This one sensory nucleus thalamus go to the brain. So you see how many, so these many nerve fibers have a single representation in the brain. Okay, only one representation in the brain. So if this thing is activated, so what happens? The brain will decipher it as a problem in either of any of these nerves. So it is not able to localize whether it is due to nerve number 1 or like nerve number 15. They all are together. So the brain will tell idellathinum kolpana. So we will not able to localize. But for fine touch, they are more advanced creatures. So what happens? എല്ലാം 1 ആണ്. So 1 will go there, അവിടെ നിന്ന് ഇനി ഒന്നേ കയറി ഇനി അടുത്തത് വരത്തുള്ളൂ, അവിടെ നിന്ന് ഒന്നേ കയറി ബ്രെയിനിലോട്ട് പോകത്തുള്ളൂ. So എന്ത് പറ്റും? If this gets activated, we know this one was the reason. So that's why in fine touch the ratio is 1:1 for every first order neuron and this thalamus, this third order neuron and also. That's why we are able to localize it. But for here the ratio is much higher. Ratio is much higher. So higher or lower, you can tell actually endha ningal edukkunnu. So suppose the ratio of number of first order neurons is to third order, you can say it's much higher, തിരിച്ചാണെങ്കിൽ lower. So you can tell because of that we are not able to localize it. Okay, please be clear how you are going to mention this. You can draw a diagram or something to make it more clear. Yeah, trigeminal thalamic tract, one thing I forgot to tell was, yeah, they relay the tactile pain and temperature. Okay, fine. Remember, they carry both the crude touch and fine touch from the face. Okay, both, that means both crude and fine. Fine. Pathway for temperature, temperature pathway, what is the pathway? Yes, it's the lateral spinothalamic. Good, good, very good. So you all know the pathway, lateral spinothalamic. Just tell the pathway. In the textbook I noticed one thing, they mentioned something called Lisseus tract. Actually, what is Lisseus tract? So Lisseus tract is something over here, okay, in the posterior area there is something called a Lisseus tract. So what is Lisseus tract is, the fibers after coming from the dorsal root ganglion, all they come here and they can ascend one or two segments up or descend one or two segments below, and then they join the spinothalamic tract. Okay. I don't think you can just mention it if needed, Lisseus tract, from there to substantia gelatinous of Rolando, then lateral spinothalamic tract. The temperature sensation carried by A delta fibers. We know there are different fibers, A alpha, A beta, A gamma, A delta. This is the thickest, this is the thinnest among the A, and totally C is the thinnest without no myelination, and the conduction velocity slows down. Okay, this I just revise some bit of nerve along with it, forget it. Okay, so my dear friends, we have covered. I know this is a very fast because we have, if I keep it as a big class, you people won't listen. That's why I did like this. I think you understood. So did we cover fine touch pathway today? Yes. Crude touch, yes. Sensation from face, temperature, yes. Sensory homunculus, SSA, okay. Sensory tract, exam, okay. I think you understand. I hope you understand. If you have any doubts, definitely contact us or any of me or you. I'll try to clarify your doubts. Try to make a short notes for all these, so during the exam time you can revise this. Finally, let's do a question. So I want you to stop this video, pause this video now, solve the question, then you can play it and find the answer. Okay? Okay, so now we are going to the answer. So let me read the question. Yeah, you have an injury to the lateral portion of the posternal gyrus in the right hemisphere would result in some loss of sensation where. Okay, full confusing. So what we'll do is we'll draw the brain. And this is my right, this is the left. Okay, so what they are telling? This is the postcentral gyrus. Postcentral gyrus is the sensory cord, SSA1. SSA1 ന്റെ postcentral gyrusന്റെ right ആണ്. Okay, so this is the right. Okay, over here the lateral portion. So the lesion is here. So which side? Now you have to decide whether it be left or right lower limb or left or right facial area. Will be the lesion be left or right? Yes, right side and opposite side la varatullu. So yeah, so it's not right lower limb. So it's either left lower limb or left facial area. Now look at this area. This lateral part is being thing. Now you think of the homunculus. You remember the homunculus, right? Yeah, you look at the homunculus. Yeah, this lateral part of face, what is represented? Yeah, your face is represented. So the face will be represented here. So it will be the answer. Yes, the left facial area. Okay, left facial area. How many of you got it right? Yes, if you have got it right, very good, because you have been using this chapter's concepts to solve clinical scenarios. That's very good. That's how you have to study. Okay. So focus on studying. I know it's hard, but believe me, it's going to be worth it. This chapter is one of the toughest in first year, and I myself struggled a lot with it, but I've tried to make it as simple as possible for you. If you have still any doubts, definitely contact back. I know it's a big chapter. We try to condense it so much to make it more as much palatable to you. So thank you all for patient listening.